Great to be with you again on Locked On Texas Tech on the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day, always free and available on YouTube or anywhere you get podcasts. And thanks as always for making us your first listen. Today's episode brought to you by FanDuel. New customers can place a $5 bet and you'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. So visit FanDuel.com to get started. Back with the only Chris Level. I'm Casey Cowan. Chris, great to be with you again, and great to be diving into the Matador Mob Mailbag once again to wrap up the week. We got a lot of questions to get to from those Matador mobsters out there, so let's waste no time. This was a popular question, maybe the most popular question from the week. Came from several different folks. No, I saw it from Randy. I saw it from Teresa. I saw it from John. I saw it from Sean. I'm sorry if I've left any other names out, but a lot of folks wondering about Taj Brooks and his finish to the regular season, and also maybe what it'll look like whenever you get into bowl season. Has become very, very popular now for players like Taj to begin to cast glances towards professional opportunities, NFL draft prep, things along those lines. There are still wins for you to go out there and get. There's still even, I think, another record for Taj to go out there and get as far as 100-yard games are concerned. I thought I saw that he was with Byron Hanspard tied atop that list as we sit here right now. But I do kind of wonder maybe what you think about the finish to the year for Taj and whether or not we may see heavier doses of Jacoby Williams, Cameron Dickey, or do things remain as they have been, which is Taj time almost all the time. What do you think?
I mean, it's this is the part of the sport that is a bit like many things, but this is a bit tricky. I would answer it this way. I think that you're still going to see this player in a normal situation in the next two games. I mean, there's senior day coming up for him in a ceremony, the Saturday after Thanksgiving, along with several other players. And, now if you go and you're up 31-0 in the middle of the third quarter in Stillwater, that'd be great, first of all. Then I can see where, maybe you quicker than normal, if that is even a question that you would say, hey man, you're done, give me your helmet, you got the rest of the day off. But I think to answer, I think it's a two-part answer in that I think the next 2 weeks, I don't envision a ton of change there. I just think you are smart and you're still trying to incorporate your younger guys. It's pretty clear Jacoby Williams has passed Cam Dickey as far as what that looks like. Now the bowl game thing that's a whole different question.
Yeah.
If you win the next two and you're going to a good bowl game, I don't know. I mean, but if you lose one of the next two, or you just are going to the Independence Bowl or the equivalent of, I can envision a scenario there to where, and it's all up to him, and it should be up to him. And I don't think anybody with associated with the coaching staff or whatever would say, hey man, quit being selfish or anything like that. Like he's got to go. You rolled the dice here, and he came back, and you tried to compete for a conference championship. It doesn't appear that will be in the cards. I do think you are going to try to get to 8 wins in the regular season, and if you don't, and you fall short, and the bowl is lesser, I could see where not just him but other folks would make some decisions, and this will be common around the country.
Sure.
I mean, it's just part of the deal. And I hate that conversation, but I get it. I just hate that we're in this spot kind of thing, but this is the reality of it. He's got a future, would want to be kept out of harm's way, but he's also not really wired that way. He'll be wanting to do what's best for the team and all those things too. So I don't really know, but maybe we delay ultimately, because I think you'll still see fairly normal over the next 2 weeks.
Gotcha.
Or 2.5 weeks for these last 2 games. But then after that, I think at that point we'll have to take a little stock and kind of figure out what may happen then.
And I got to admit, I've kind of lost track of what a good bowl game even is, and that has nothing to do with the playoff. I'm not trying to, because I hate that argument. Oh, the playoff's now it makes bowl games useless. They were all exhibitions to begin with, where both teams went home. Win or lose, your season was over. And so I know there are variations and things that come with the festivities and all of that kind of stuff, but you kind of wonder if it is playoff or bust for so many of these guys, and I wouldn't blame them, I guess, if it was. So.
And I don't, and I think that's as good as the regular season has been, and from the standpoint of there's more games that are meaningful. There is, that's an unintended consequence, I think, too, is that just more and more don't participate in the bowl game. And I get it. I certainly understand. And whether that's they are transferring or like, hey man, I'm going to turn the page and I'm going to keep myself healthy and I'm going to prepare, like Miles Cole did last year. I mean, he just kind of said, "Hey, man, I'm out. I'm going to go start my training for the combine and all those things, and I'm not doing it." But you also had Loic Fungi, who was in the portal and was not going to come back to your program. He played in the bowl game and played well.
Yeah, scored a touchdown, didn't he?
Sure did. So there's all kinds of dynamics there, but. And I know there was some bowl game questions, so let me just try to refresh. And
this one's from Barry asking about some bowl game options, and we're assuming pleasant things, like you're going to go win your final 2 games. So, what do you think? What do you think in that kind of realm a projection could look like, or what have you seen so far?
To catch everybody up, I was curious as anybody on what do your bowl tie-ins look like now with all this realignment and all these things. Essentially, what they did was there was contracts in place. Essentially, if you were an old Pac-12 member, okay, and you may be in the Big 12 now, you may be an independent now, or you may be in the Big 10 now. Okay, they're all over the place. I say independent, but that's kind of what Washington State and what Oregon State are, or I guess they're still in the Pac-12. They still all are going to fall into the Pac-12 bowl tie-ins, the previous ones, and so that's still all those Big 12 schools are still kind of tied into their previous bowl tie-ins. So there is one in Phoenix on December the 26th against the Big 10 team. There is one in Memphis, Tennessee, which the Red Raiders have played in a couple years ago against an SEC team that's on December the 27th, the Liberty Bowl. You've got the Pop-Tarts Bowl, which everybody's excited about. Kansas State played in this one, because you get to eat the Pop-Tart and the whole thing. There's a lot of, they just kind of lean into the circus,
the absurdity
aspect. Exactly. They just kind of lean into it. And I think ratings for that particular game were like higher than most every other bowl game similar, because they just were like, blueberry, strawberry, sure, but yeah, we're about to eat this masked costume person. We're just going to eat him alive.
Human-sized Pop-Tart.
Exactly, yeah. And so everybody, it's kind of like the Mayo Bowl, right? Where they just,
we're an easily entertained nation. Yes,
yes. But you've got the Alamo Bowl. That's against the Pac-12 team, which would be interesting. But it could be Big 12, Pac-12. So that could be like your Oregon's, your USC's, your Washington's, as well as the schools that are already in your league, as well as Washington State. And then you've got, the Texas Bowl, which is an SEC team. So anyways, there's still, if you're in the First Responder Bowl, or if you're in the, I don't know, I could easily see where like some guys would be like, yeah, man, I'm out. I'm not, but if you're, Alamo or, that's, I just don't know if we know what that looks like yet. I feel like I don't have a complete vision of kind of what a good bowl game versus a non-bowl game, because you have to know opponent. You have to know, because just think about it like this. If I tell you you're going to play Cal and Shreveport, or if I tell you you're going to play A&M and San Antonio, you tell me what's the bigger bowl game.
Well,
And
Cal didn't get beat by South Carolina a couple of weeks ago. I guess it's been so long. I'd take the Aggies.
But you know what I mean, like
Yeah, I know
one that
exactly
you can, so I think that has something to do with it. If you get sent far off, and it's not against a regional opponent, and there's just not a lot of meaning there, I could see where even if it's maybe even a quote unquote better bowl game, but if you're somewhere fairly close and it's an opponent that you can sink your teeth into and it's meaningful and all that, I mean, I could see where somebody would say, okay, I'm in, I want to participate.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Gotcha.
there you
go. One of the most recent projections I saw, for whatever it's worth, Tech and NC State in the Birmingham Bowl in Birmingham, Alabama. So,
yeah, I would be there, and I would want to pay back the old Wolfpack. Like what is this the sign for it? Is this like I get to hug on my man Ruffin McNeil's neck a little bit, and I feel like we owe him one for a long night back in Joey's first year, and that whole deal with that wolf sound coming over the loudspeaker and the whole deal. It was just that whole drive me crazy. But I could see where that would qualify as probably something that I'll be excited about, whatever it is, but I think there's a difference in what's going to generate ratings, what a player would be wanting to participate in. And some players may go, man, if it ain't for the national championship, I'm just out, too. So there's all kinds of schools of thought. That's just not how I view Taj Brooks to be wired, though, if we're talking specifically about him.
Okay, appreciate those questions. And we'll get to this one from Brian. Had a couple other people ask about this also. How much money is Tech expected to allocate to? First, today's episode brought to you by Omaha Steaks. Nothing delivers comfort and joy quite like the unrivaled quality and taste of Omaha Steaks. And this year, you can skip the holiday hustle and bustle and save 50% off gourmet gifts site-wide at omahasteaks.com. Plus, get a $30 reward card when you shop early and score an extra $30 off with our promo code COLLEGE. Use our promo code COLLEGE. With 5 generations of experience, they consistently deliver the world's best steak experience, and the gifting experts at Omaha Steaks have made it easy to deliver the perfect gift with thoughtfully curated gift packages starting at only $89.99. From legendary steaks to mouthwatering desserts and more, save 50% off site-wide at omahasteaks.com. Plus, our listeners get an extra $30 off with our promo code COLLEGE and a $30 reward card when you shop early. That's 50% off at omahasteaks.com and an extra $30 off with our promo code COLLEGE. Minimum purchase may apply. How much money is Tech expected to allocate to offensive line, defensive line? He mentions defensive ends specifically this portal cycle. Do you think they're saving more money for transfers over high school? What do you think, Chris? Because I know you're the bookkeeper. You got all the facts and figures, right?
Yeah. Again, another impossible one to answer. Here's how I would phrase my answer to this question. There's a couple of things here where there is supposedly this kind of window of time where you're kind of going to operate under the old rules, and that it's a free for all. It's the Wild West. You can, that there's, and you front load it and to get your player and all those things. And you're not having to abide by anything until April the 7th of next year on the new revenue sharing stuff. I will say that there's some folks that say, dude, that there's no way that's going to hold up. I mean, it's a free market. Like if I think it's, this individual doing this is worth that, and that's my view, and I have the money to pay it, screw you, man. I don't care who you are. And if you don't, and if you're going to house settlement me or whatever it is, I'm suing you. And so there's that whole dynamic. So I just want to make that
clear. I'm
too.
one that believes in that dynamic.
Okay.
That's what I think will be the reality.
But I do think, I can't tell you what the dollar figure is going to be because I don't know if anybody knows that. I don't know if you have a pool of money that you have budgeted, because things are changing and they change quickly, especially when you're in the middle of it. we can get this guy for this, but he's saying he's got an offer for this, so let's up it here, and maybe we can get this guy for not a – you see what I mean?
Yeah.
I mean, it is – I don't know if anybody could pin that down. And I think you could go into free agency with a dollar figure and a wish list, and 20 minutes later, wad that up, and we're working on a new one. I just think that's where you're at.
Could I say that the biggest – do you think it'd be fair to say that the biggest portion of whatever that pool would be dedicated to the trenches? I know that's also subjective and kind of based on the timing, but is that fair to say?
Well, and the reason I would say you're probably right is this, because you may take more people at those spots than you would others.
Gotcha.
So by nature of – individuals, but that may be the high. And again, it depends on who it is.
Yeah.
I mean, to somebody, this kid's maybe worth $150. To the other guy, maybe he's worth $350. Here's a good example on a kid that left here. Philip Bliddy. Remember him?
Oh, yeah.
He left here and he went to Indiana, of all places. And this was in Indiana sucked. And he was just kind of a guy here. I think he would have been a rotational guy. He wasn't ever going to be an all-conference guy or whatever. He goes to Indiana, and it's just the same. I mean, he's not recreating defense and all these things, and it's just not like wowing everybody. Well, he gets into the portal again at the right time, and Auburn paid him a pretty good chunk. And I think everybody in a lot of places go, Auburn's paying. Now, Auburn struggled this year, but my point is that you just because you spend money, it doesn't guarantee you that the player is going to be worth a darn. You have to pick correctly. And you may be much better off picking the right guy at 150 than the wrong guy at 350 or whatever. I'm just throwing out numbers.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And I think Auburn but it's kind of like Texas Tech and Maurice Rodriguez. I think that it was a timing. It was God, we've got to have some help. And he's out here, and God, did he look good. He hasn't even come close to stepping on the field. He's not even in conversations when you start talking about second team. Mm-hmm. I mean, at the end of the North Texas game, I mean, how many points do you have to be up for Maurice Rodriguez to play?
Yeah.
So that's the – but I do think that Texas Tech, I wrote this to a Matador Mob member yesterday or the day before in a response similar to this, but I do think you are much better prepared for what this may look like in the trenches and all those things going into this cycle than you were last year. However, you were far from alone, like dealing with it last year. I think there was just some like, what? This is what we're doing, and this is what it costs, or this is what he wants, or this is, and I just think it was just kind of, so I think you'll be much better prepared for what all that looks like now. And let me just tell you a little secret here. People are always like, well, how do you even time to evaluate individuals, and how do you have time when a window opens? It's like all this activity. The way this stuff is working is that all these kids, these players, they have agents or handlers. That's who's calling these schools and saying, hey, he's going to be in the portal. You interested? Like, what do you think you may be able to come up with? That's all the lead time. That is going on. That has gone on everywhere in the country. So there's not near as many secrets as one would think, and it kind of sucks. It's kind of dirty in a way, but this is just what's happening. And if you can have good relationship with an individual that knows a lot of these kids or reps a lot of these kids or has good intel, it's worth its weight in gold to you, because you can get a leg up, and you can get because when kids enter the portal, there is hey, entering, but don't contact me, i.e. I already know where I'm going. I already got a deal. Leave me alone. Then there's kids that get in and are like, it's a free-for-all. Like anybody can contact them, and you got to sort through it all. Sorry for the long answer, but I'm just trying to educate on kind of how some of this stuff has worked, is working, and will work going forward.
Yeah. All right. Appreciate that question. This one from Charles, who's asking about a red shirt roundup. First, today's episode brought to you by FanDuel. Get ready to tackle all the action with FanDuel, America's #1 sports book. And right now, new customers can bet only $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if you win. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets on the NFL and a whole lot more, all in one place. So when you get a hunch, a gut instinct in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more, all on the same page where you place your bet. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today, and you'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. That's FanDuel.com. Never waste a gut feeling again, and make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. Now that we've got some redshirt years secured, a couple games left to play, bowl game does not count against that number anyway. Anybody on your radar you think could be popping up into some snaps that we haven't seen much of prior to now?
So basically, he's wanting to know who's redshirted.
Yeah, I guess who's playing with 2 left in the year is part of what he asked. So, guys that we could see in-game action that wouldn't be there.
I would really say the entire class at this point. I think there's nobody that I'm specifically aware of that is going to burn it by playing in these next 2 games or anything like that. Because Jacoby Williams, Cameron Dickey, Micah Hudson. And, Oliver Miles has played some special teams. I don't know if he's played all of his 4 or I don't know what the status is there, but everybody else is redshirting. And it doesn't matter what happens in the next 2 games. I think they're good. I don't think I've missed anybody. I mean, Jacob Ponton has come into 2 games now, but again, he's still clear to come in and play in the last 2 and still maintain his red shirt. So he would still be considered a redshirt freshman next year. But I think they just made the decision early on at running back and at wide receiver with Micah that, hey, you're playing. This is what we're doing. But, I mean, as I look at it, I mean, you got three edge guys, Chet O'Feely, Charles Anderson, Eddie Smith. Ooh, they all look the part. You've got some corners and Ashton Hampton, Oliver Miles, who I mentioned, and Boss Collins, Peyton Morgan, and Malika Scary, your 2 safeties. I just don't, and then you've got a whole bunch of offensive linemen. Holton Hendricks has played in a game, I know. Then you've got Ponton, who we talked about, and Ellis Davis, and on and on. You've redshirted a bunch of other receivers. I mean, I hear nothing but very good things about Tyson Turner, but LJ Johnson, and you just, so there's, yeah, and then obviously Will Hammond is a guy that everybody's asked about, but he can still play in the final 2 and maintain his status, and so maybe he does just this. I don't know, and others would too. Again, the bye week adds to the intrigue there for me because it gives them more practice and like, okay, we're gonna incorporate you more now. But then again, like what upperclassmen are not getting it done or need to because everything with the quarterback is a rotation, and you are still very young in a lot of cases on defense. So I don't know. So we'll just kind of see what that looks like. But yeah.
All right. Thank you for that question, Charles. This one from Sally. Do you think the behavior of the student section hurt us with recruits and their families?
No, I don't.
All right.
I think there's a lot that went on Saturday. I think there's some knuckleheads in every group. It doesn't, and I have a hard time with the whole holier than thou for other fan bases when they point to the Tech fan base. Hey, look, I've sat in the middle of your idiots fan base too. I've heard things. I've had stuff thrown at me before. Tech has a reputation, and in some ways I kind of like it. But I mean,
you're a big target too, man. Damn.
Yes, I am. I mean, I had to look at a police officer at the end of the TCU game when students were throwing stuff onto the field on the sideline as the game ended. I looked at this cop. I was like, "You gonna do anything about this?" Like I got hit by a few things. It wasn't anything that hurt me or anything. Yeah. And he was just looking up in the stands like with disgust, and he didn't really like necessarily acknowledge me. But I just I hate that part. It doesn't make what happened at Tech right. And then I also want to mention, Dion did say in the press conference, hey, man, I had to tell our students a week ago not to do the same thing. So let's not act like Colorado is some. And Mike Leach, in a post-game press conference years ago, he talked about being battery being thrown at him. So just so we get all that out there.
Sure.
I think in some ways you'd be shocked at how little athletes or recruits think about the outcome of games or things like that. They are there for, oh man, this is fun. This is energetic. I can see myself living here. Oh, the coach is really nice to me. Oh, they have this major that I'm interested in. Oh, it's not that far away from home. There's so many other things that factor into it, that because somebody threw a piece of pizza, did happen, or a vape pen or a water bottle or a beer bottle. By the way, I think Joey's the one that said this. This would have been an aluminum beer bottle, not an actual bottle.
Yeah, he said beer bottle. I've been,
but you can't. Yeah, there's no glass allowed or sold.
I thought whatever. There was. I could have sworn too. I thought there. Us. Big Green New Deal people out here in West Texas, all about saving the environment. And I thought there was some type of recycling drive they had going on, but they just didn't get the bins out there fast enough. Didn't somebody make an announcement, hey, give us all your water bottles in the fourth quarter and we're going to have the bin? And somebody got hung up with the bins in the back or something like that. I'm not quite sure. So maybe a little more to it than meets the eye.
But final thing that I'll just say, offer up there, I'll always take up for this fan base. There's some crazy ones. We hear from passionate ones. There's people that disagree with you or me or both of us, or have different opinions about the actual sport. But as far as like when this thing's rolling and it's crazy, ain't nothing better, man. And there's a lot of places that have some bad apples, but I don't. I hate that. That's like some people's big takeaway is like, oh, freaking Tech, what low rent and this and that. I mean, save it with your holier than thou crap, man. I'm not here for that, man.
Yeah, me neither. Happens all over the place, and I'm just glad to see fans engaged. You care? That's a good thing. Hey, speaking of the big handsome being big and handsome, Jared asked this question. I did not realize how large of a man Chris Level was until I saw him interview Grant McCaslin going into halftime. Is there any chance you have any college football eligibility left? You ever spend any time at left tackle, Chris, or can we bring you on back like Paul Blake?
You don't want that. That's a lion's den and a meat necklace, man. I mean,
hey, I have enjoyed learning that Grant McCaslin, not a big ego guy, because there'd be some guys out there like, hey, either tell the halftime reporter to squat or get me a stool. But not.
I will tell you, I have worked with individuals within the last handful of years that I've been on camera with that do sneak in a stool.
Yeah.
To which I'm like, what is this?
Asking Chris to squat down.
Yeah, I'm like, man, like God made us all. Like, I mean, hey, it sucks for me on an airplane or a roller coaster. You don't see me. Hey, I mean,
all right. Just wanted to check.
Yeah.
This question from Ed says, we've seen a lot of publicity regarding Joey's recruiting standards, speed at all positions, the criteria like being a hurdler or being able to dunk a basketball. He asks, are these working out? Have these standards been modified at all? Do you think in some of those regards they've gotten some of the return that they were looking for? Is it too early to ask the question?
Well, I think too, what you've thought 3 years ago when you're doing, I mean, how different is the sport now than when you were really starting to dig in with some of this stuff? I do think it would be from the standpoint of, do they have that same criteria when they take portal guys?
Gotcha.
And so is that working out? I do think that they have a lot of criteria when it comes to a high school prospect, and you try to do as much homework as you can with track and with hand size, arm length. There's studies that I think James Blanchard, if I can say his name right, has been involved with, where he'll look at it and say the last 100 edge guys that have been drafted in the NFL over the last 5 to 7 years, this is their average height, arm length, speed in the 40 time, blah, blah, blah. And then they try to like hone in on, you're trying to eliminate misses. And I do think you still like a lot of the young talent on your team, but that's not fast enough for some people, and I certainly understand it.
Sure.
And so I don't know if we know yet if – I mean, I do think you're faster as a team. Are you fast enough? No. But whatever measurable or whatever parameters you're looking at Jacoby Williams off of, I would say I liked all of the things that – because, I mean, he looks pretty juiced up to me. There's no right or wrong way to do this. I think when you put criteria in place, you're simply trying to mitigate risk. You're trying to, because it's still true. You sign 25 dudes, and they used to say to them, hey, on day one, look around, gentlemen, because in like 3 or 4 years, there's going to be like 10 or 12 of you left. That's just kind of how the thing works. Whether you've popped off a track time or dunking a basketball or hurdle real good or whatever, that's just kind of the injury. Do you love it or not? And so, all those things factor in. But I do think generally you do. I mean, you seem to be bigger. Like the kids that are walking in here, that they are definitely longer and more athletic and all that. But some of these kids are still pups. The freshman class right now, I think Joey has said to me on his coach's show like a month ago, I'm talking about the freshman class right now, the Will Hammond class. That's true freshman right now. He's like, I think this has a chance to be one of the best classes this school has ever put together. But you're not going to see the dividends paid off for another till next year or the year after or whatever. It's just one of those senior days where you hope they're all still here and you're like, damn, all those guys are leaving, or it's going to suck to replace all those guys. That's when it was a productive group. But he certainly feels like that. So.
All right, thank you for that question, Ed. This one from Justin, who says, I'm starting to be on the side of acceptance. That's good, Justin. He says, Tech has a chance to be 8-4 favorite in their last 2 games to end the season. Is this season an improvement if it is 8-4 versus 7-5 or 6-6?
That's in the eye of the beholder. It's all about perspective. I think your Vegas had your over/under win total at like 7.5. I think there's different ways to get to 8-4. And if they do this, I would have thought maybe a Washington State win would have been in there. I would have thought maybe a Colorado win would have been in there. I would have thought maybe an Arizona loss would have been in there, an Ames loss. So I do consider it progress. I think you've pushed it forward. I think they're going to try to do everything you can to get to that 8-win mark. You're not going to sacrifice anything to just say, hey, yeah, let's just tank or whatever. That's just not how this stuff works. But I would say that, and Callan, that's better than I know what you thought. I thought they had a chance to win 8 or 9. But my deal was, and I think you agreed with me, you want to play meaningful games in November. Well, you did that, but it feels a little hollow now on the backside of it because you lost it. Although you did win one of them in Ames, and you've lost the next one. It could have been more meaningful, and you could still be playing more meaningful games coming up had you been better, versus Baylor and TCU. But we thought this was an 8 or 9 win team at best. I didn't think this would be a conference championship contender. You thought what, 7-5?
Yeah, non-conference title contender, 7-5. I wanted to. I guess my answer to the question would be they're maintaining. I think if you don't feel like it's an out-and-out improvement, I think we all understand. Without 2 blue bloods on your schedule, this is not the same type of schedule that if you were 8-4 and Texas and Oklahoma had been a part of that, I'd say, yeah, you've improved. They're trending right toward where I projected them in the ballpark that we both projected them. I asked you about that weeks ago. Like, why am I feeling disappointed when they're doing exactly what I thought they would do? Doesn't make any sense.
Because we just line up in droves.
Well, there's some of those games where you're like, we were just this away.
Yeah, that's right.
From being better than you thought they would be. But if you don't want to say improvement, I think you at least have to say maintaining. But there's no doubt with this now being a different Big 12, you want to do better than maintain. You want to be one of those that's in a hunt every year. And I think your resources justify that you should have that expectation.
And it's hard. It's just one of those things. And like I've looked at it too. Like if you just look at how you're putting your team together, I look at who's contending right now. And you look at like an Arizona State or Colorado that are in the thick of it still, and you say they were very, very portal heavy. They chose right. They have culture. They have like coaches that have kind of figured it out and like picked correctly, and they've stayed relatively healthy and all that. But then you look at like the BYUs and the Kansas States, they were very light in the portal. They're all about culture and maintaining their roster and developing and all those things, and that's paid off too. So I don't know if there's like a one way to do this. I think Joey and his staff, there's a blend. We're going to always maintain a high school developmental thing, but we're also going to, be very selective when it comes to the portal, and they'll continue to do that this year. So anyway, it's just kind of interesting to see how, because I mean, what Deion, they bring in 50 new dudes. And I think Arizona State was like the 30 or 40. You're in the 15 to 20 range, but like I think BYU and Kansas State, they were in like less than 10 or maybe less than 5 or something as far as overall kind of how they chose to operate that. So a million different ways to do it. I don't know which way is right.
All right, only a few minutes left. We may just rapid fire a couple of these.
Okay.
Asking about what percentage of snaps we want to see Baron Morton take the final 2 games. I'm going to say 100%, unless we're in garbage time and you've just got such a big lead that you can play with it. But I said this the other day. There's just something that feels funny to me about talking about benching a guy who is cruising toward a team that could have an 8-4 record. So I'm going to continue to ride with number 2. You feel any different?
No, I just, and only Baron knows, or everybody knows internally, like how he feels and the health status and all those things. But I think that, I think he'll get a chance to be the starter and all that. Now, could I see you incorporating Will Hammond into some different things, or being purposeful about including him, whether it's red zone or like every 5th series, or having a, like, okay, we're going to go ahead. Like at the end of the, what game was it? It was the end of the Baylor game. Like if it got lopsided in the wrong way and they kept leaving Barron out there, I was like, this is weird to me.
Yeah.
But I think part of it was trying to maintain, Will's red shirt. But I think in a situation like that, I think you would absolutely see Will Hammond go in and let's hope we don't get to that point, but hopefully it's the lopsided the other way.
It's kind of funny. I've seen so many talk about how bad the offensive line is, and then somehow they leap directly to, we've got to put in our prized freshman quarterback to play behind that line. I'm thinking, I'm not so sure if I'm connecting those dots. But
as Steve Jobs said one time, you connect the dots backwards. That's kind of how that works. Yeah.
Ryan, or let's see, not Ryan. Who asked this? I think it was Eric. Oh no, it was a different Ryan.
Okay.
Ryan. He brought up a question talking about a Dallas Cowboys comparison and contrast. That's just hurtful right now, Ryan. We're not going to answer that question.
Will Hammond is better than Cooper Rush, if I saw the question.
Okay, fine. There's your answer. I don't know why you're bringing that up. I thought we were all friends here. This is the trust tree, I thought.
Yeah, and he's accusing me of being a Cowboy fan only, but you're one as well.
I'm in this god-awful stinking ship as well, which, by the way, rooting for Deion Sanders to become the next head coach of the Dallas Cowboys. It would be the greatest spectacle known to man. I'm rooting for this to happen, Chris.
I think there's I think you and I have as good a chance of being the head coach as that. I just don't think that'll happen. But
hey, my wife will be glad to hear I got a shot at being the Dallas Cowboys head coach.
Moving to Arlington, are you?
That's right.
Yeah.
Couple of hoops questions.
Okay.
We had this one from, let's see here. This is a nameless question. Oh, no, this is from Jacob. I'm sorry. Favorite thing you've seen from Grant McCaslin's team through 3 games, just keeping it simple. He says Chance McMillan stepping up, looking even more settled and confident is his. So favorite thing you've seen from Coach McCaslin's team so far. And another one asked for a comparison as far as the offensive skill this team has. One of the best we've seen in 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, ever. And it's so early. I know we're speculating a little bit, but what's the favorite thing you've seen from them so far? And where do you think maybe the offensive talent kind of fits into what we've seen historically?
Best thing I've seen about it is their ability to share the ball. It's just and I don't think you've tilted to where it's like, okay, everybody's being too unselfish to where it kind of can be a detriment. No, you do it. No, you do it. No, you do it. No, you do it. That kind of thing. It's not like that. I think this team has the ability to beat teams with the pass. And I think that's a lot of fun because that makes for a pretty brand of basketball. It's a very frustrating brand to try to, guard, and you've got to pick your poison on what you're trying to do. Do you double JT Toppin? Do I double Kerwin Walton? Do I double? I mean, what am I trying to do here? And you've got multiple players that can hurt you with the pass, and that's been my most favorite thing. As far as offensive skill, let's just see what it looks like. Next week in Brooklyn first. There's certainly no doubt this team can shoot. They share it. I think it's an up tempo. There's some depth here. But let's just see, because will they be able to do this when they play like a bunch of brutes like Houston? You're going to look really skilled and pretty and all that stuff against a team like that. That's when because that's when I go back to like that Final Four team. They were a chameleon. They could play any style you wanted. You want to run it up? Let's go. You want to slow it down? Got that too. You want to play a little bit of both? We got you. That was the secret of that team, is like, we will play Gonzaga brand and we'll go up and down and we'll beat you at your own game. You want to grind it and play against an Iowa State or a Kansas State that's going to like really defend and try to beat you up like a West Virginia. We can do that too. So let's just see where this team can kind of what it looks like against St. Joe's and either Syracuse or Texas and some things like that. But I like the way you're thinking, because there is a lot of skill here. That's the one thing you would say about this team: very athletic, very deep, and very skilled. Physical enough? We'll see.
Yeah, if they're making it look that pretty against Houston, buddy, we going to the ship. So go ahead and book your hotel.
I concur. I absolutely concur. Yes.
Chris, appreciate the time as always, man. I enjoyed doing these and appreciate the insights as well. We got through this open week, and we'll be back and cooking with a basketball game day the next time around, and getting ready for another football game day the next time around, as well as we kick off a new week. So appreciate the time as always.
Absolutely. Sorry for my long answers. I appreciate all the questions, and we will talk to everybody next time. So have a good weekend to all that celebrate. So there you go.
That's right. And get subscribed on YouTube or anywhere you get podcasts so you never miss an episode. Thanks especially to those everydayers for being out there, and thanks to the Matador Mobsters for always keeping the phone an interesting place to visit. And you can become one of those as well just by hitting the show notes, checking out the link for a free 14-day trial. It's your direct line to Chris and myself with one-on-one text messages sent straight to your phone. Have a great weekend, everybody. Thanks for the time as always. For Chris, I'm Casey, and we hope to see you back for the next round on Locked On Texas Tech.